and welcome to Education Without Borders by School Rubric. And your favorite coffee panel crew is here. Myself, Pav, Traci, Samantha, and we are here tonight to talk about content creation. And this is going to be a great conversation. And we'll be right back in a few seconds. All right, welcome back, everyone. It's so great to see you. It's been 2 weeks, but it's really only been a few minutes since we've been chatting with each other, but we're ready to have a really great conversation. So first, why don't we all go around the table, the coffee table, check in, let everyone know how you're doing real quick, and then we'll dive right into this conversation, content creation.
Hey, everybody. Traci, you go.
Did we really just say the same thing? Oh my gosh. Hey everybody, I'm Traci with Intelligogy, the podcast. Doing awesome. It's Thanksgiving and just really focusing on gratitude.
Hey all, I'm Sam Fecich. I am from the EduMagic podcast and feeling really grateful to be around this virtual coffee table with amazing educators.
And hey everybody, I am Pav Wander and I make up just under 50% of the Staff Room podcast. And my better half is hosting tonight. So I am very excited to be part of this panel with everyone and very excited for this topic tonight.
Oh, we are all big fans of content creation and consumption and engagement. And so we really are looking forward to this really fast, really on-point conversation where we can share some of our ideas, some of the things that are working, and really be poignant on why does we want to engage in this content creation. But I know, as much as we want to talk, we've got a few questions queued up, and I can already tap into my ear from my producer, letting me know, hey, let's queue up some questions. So behind the scenes, let's get to our first question, and then we'll get right into the conversation.
Hi, my name is Sherry Kushner, and I'm a media arts teacher at Chute Middle School in Evanston, Illinois. And the questions that I want to ask are, what are our goals and targets with respect to content creation using technology in our classroom spaces? Why is it so important that we are creating with our students? And what is the role that creating plays?
Oh, we got a great question right there, and very specific on sort of the digital content creation, because of course we can be creators far beyond merely technology, but here we got a little bit of focus on technology and creation and the why and how do we do it. So just a great question from Sherry to propel this conversation. So I'll sip on a little bit of coffee, just absorb the knowledge from you three, and then I'll try to wrap it up real quick. So Traci, we'll go with you so Pav doesn't try to cut you off again.
Darn Pav. Okay, so this does excite me for so many reasons. And the first thing I want to tap into is what allowing students to be content creators, what it does for the brain. So I want to go there first. Great quote from Pat Wolf. I got this from ASCD, a great article they did on her research. Experience sculpts the brain. You learn much better by doing something than reading about it. Reading something doesn't change the brain a lot. Doing things changes the brain a great deal. We already know that, right? So it's about giving them opportunities, and then we learn from them. It has to be hands-on, and that digital piece is so important, and there's so many different resources that we can share. But I think the main thing is releasing control, letting them be creative, and then we have to set the structure. But to really answer her question first, it starts with the brain, and they learn best by doing and taking it to the next level, giving them the freedom to create the content. You can't get any better than that. Pav, what do you think?
Well, I love the idea of doing. I mean, even if we think about ourselves, we don't really get good at anything until we try to do it ourselves for the first time or as we practice. So that is extremely important. I'm thinking about the conversation that Chey and I had a couple of weeks ago in regards to content creation. And, something that came out of our conversation was the idea of intentionality. And, students may not be aware of the content that's out there and how they are actually consuming that content. until they start to create it and appreciate the process. And I think that is such a key piece here, because when they start to create it for the intention of possibly publishing it or putting it out into the world for other people to consume, they themselves also become better consumers of other people's content. So they're paying different attention to the things that are out there and available for them to learn from, to grow from when it comes to creating their own material, their own content. They can see how they can get better at things. And so that's something that really came out of our conversation, is that interaction piece. You know, our students actually interacting with the content that they're creating until they start to produce it themselves. And so we become better content consumers, I think, when we start creating it ourselves as well.
Well, Pav, you nailed that.
All
Trace,
right.
you nailed that.
Oh.
Oh, don't worry, Samantha. I work with Pav. I'm used to being cut off all the time, and that's why I jump in real early, or else there's no space for me at the table. So, Samantha, why don't you dive in next with some of this creation stuff?
Yes, I am so excited. So whenever I read this question, I immediately thought of the ISTE standards for students and teachers. And some of those ISTE standards for students relate directly to students creating content to show what they know in different ways. Knowledge constructor, innovative designer, global communicator, and collaborator. It's a great way to set those learning targets and learning goals aligned to technology with purpose and meaning behind it. And I love how Traci and Pav were talking about giving students the voice to create and to show what they know, to create content. You do get a better appreciation for content that's already out there, and providing students with those authentic learning experiences to make that learning real is just such a powerful thing that we as educators get to do in our classrooms with our students each day. It really is a powerful learning tool, something that can show what they know. That's not a test, or that can't be written on a paper, but you can create that content to really dive deeper into letting your educator know, hey, I know this content and I created this podcast, or I created this video, or whatever it might be. And it's just an amazing opportunity for both teachers and students.
Oh, I am so lucky that I am taking part on this PD right here, because you three have hit such nuggets, such notes that I already know it's going to impact my teaching tomorrow. And we know this is what happens when teachers sit around and they talk and they laugh and they share some stories, is they come away with rich content. And we love to say, it's a PD session, do step 1, step 2, step 3. But it's so more powerful when it's just friends that are chit-chatting and just having this rich conversation. I'll quickly summarize. I love Traci when you talked about the brain, because I started to think of the scarecrow, if he only had because that's what my mother used to tell me all the time. But when I'm talking to my students and I start to discuss the why, I always say, now we're taking the heat check of our brain, and we see it's fired off in red and yellows and greens and no blues. We're fired up everywhere. And when I sort of make that content creation, I talk about kids, when we're consuming, there's a lot of blue. But when we're creating, there's a lot of red, there's a lot of orange. And so when you were talking about the brain, I was like, yeah. It reminds me of a poetry soiree that I've always been taught. When someone sends a great snap, so it's like your way of applauding without interrupting them. And I just wanted to snap away. And then Pav came in with the next great component, which was the whole idea of, and we know she helped me get to this place, because I was thinking we're ascending, we're consumers, and then we're engaging with tech, and then we're creating tech, and we've hit the top of the pyramid. And Pat said, whoa, Jim guy, calm yourself. You're not quite at the top of the mountain yet. And that when you get to that point of great creation of content, all of a sudden it goes right back circle, and all of a sudden you are so much more engaged with how you want to consume content, because now you have purpose. Now you know where you want to go as a creator. And so ultimately Pav in our conversation was able to really open my eyes to the fact that content creation isn't sort of the pinnacle of it all. All of a sudden, it just starts to cycle again. So I can go to be a really great consumer of technology, and then a really great engager and communicator with technology. And then I get to do the process again, and my creation's only going to be that much greater. And then Samantha, you came to the last great point, was really the connection to standards, the connection to demonstrating learning. That a lot of people think, oh, you're just doing some tech, or you're just making some videos. I guess no curriculum today, eh? Actually, I'm fully engaged in the curriculum. I'm fully, not even me. Maybe I'm just sitting in the back while my students are creating while I'm sipping my coffee. My students are fully engaged, and they are displaying their learning. So you guys hit such great nuggets. I'm so glad that I'm allowed to speak to summarize it all, but it is fantastic, fantastic. What great information right away on this chat. But I know, because I got a producer in my ear, this is when you know you hit the big time. When you got someone say, hey, keep it moving, keep it moving. We have got a second question to help propel this conversation even quicker. So if we got that queued up, let's bring out that second question, and let's get right back into it.
Good evening. My question is geared more towards those who are beginning the creation process in their classroom. How do you begin creating in your classroom with students? And what are some tools or apps that you may suggest to use starting off with students, especially those teachers or students who are maybe more hesitant to do this type of creation in their classroom?
Oh, fantastic question from Claire, because we've been talking sort of the pedagogy, the philosophy, but we haven't really dove entirely into what are we doing, how is the work, and what are a couple of gems you would give to some of our viewers. And we have a really lively crowd. I'm looking at the banner, and there's lots of people we know, and there's a few, well, not that I don't know them, doesn't mean they're new, a few names that I haven't seen before. I'm looking forward to connecting with them later. And for my loyals, like my mother, thanks for tuning in. But back to this question. Samantha, let's go with you first. Give us some tips on this. Answer this question from Claire, because it's such a great question that I know is going to lead to some really fabulous takeaways.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a story I'd like to share. So I teach future educators at Grove City College. And one thing I started to notice early in my career was when students were creating content, and they were creating content just for me to hand in for an assignment, it wasn't authentic. And I was getting feedback like, oh, this is busy work, or oh, I'm never going to use this. So that summer, I reworked the whole syllabus, and I started to pair my future teachers up with educators from around the world and content areas, subject, grade levels that they would want to teach one day. And from then on, while we're creating in our technology of instruction class, where we learn about how to create with technology, they're now creating content for teachers and students to use in their classrooms in real time right away. And the assignments that they're turning in, the work that they're doing is phenomenal. And they're making those connections to creation with ed tech tools in a low stakes way. So they get hands-on using and creating with technology tools about content that their cooperating teacher has sent to them. They send it off to their cooperating teacher. They use it, they give feedback. And sometimes our students are able to live teach now virtually with their cooperating educator. It's been an amazing experience. We've connected with educators from all over the world, and it's been a truly wonderful experience for me as the teacher. It's a win for me because I'm getting some great quality content back. It's a win for the student. They're getting experience using tech, and they're building their PLNs, bonus. And it's a win for the teacher. They can learn about a new tech tool, not have to worry about putting in too much brain time. They can learn about how to use it. The student can create something with it and send it off to them. And some of our favorite tools that we use in class would definitely have to be Wakelet. We ride the Wakelet wave. We love that for creation, for content curation, and for creation as well, in collaboration. Lots of C's in that sentence. Flipgrid definitely is a go-to, and creating digital portfolios through websites. And a big fan favorite is definitely creating in Canva, flyers, digital content, those types of things. So it's a phenomenal experience for everybody involved.
I only managed to write down the first of the two of the C's, the curate and the creation. I'll come back to you for the last one. You so many great ones. Flipgrid, Pav and I have joked, like, how many times can I Flipgrid my students? But we know it's just tongue in cheek. But so many gems right there. Love that. We're going to go rock, paper, scissors, but I'm not really going to go rock, paper, scissors. Pav, you got it next. Hey, you're up next.
I gotta say that I didn't think I was gonna get the nod from you because you've been chirping me all night. So I figured you would get me last. So, I did want to quickly say that, Samantha, that connection piece, with the educators, that's so key. And when I think about students creating in the classroom, I think about connection. I want those students to feel like they're not just creating for the sake of their teacher or to hand something in, or just to get something done, a different way of presenting, right? Like, I want them to think about creation in the sense that, it's available now for other people to learn from. And so something that I really like to do with my students is when they create something in class, I like to have them publish it by presenting it to another class. And so we've been working on some things, and that way, another class becomes the consumer of the content that they just created, regardless of what it is. So, if they created some things in Canva, and I really like Canva, and another tool that we've been using a lot is Adobe Spark for those flyer creations. And so when they create something like those pictures, we create maybe like a Google slide presentation, and then we screencastify it. And then, we present it to another class to say, hey, look what we created. We just wanted to share it with you. And that act of publishing something really gets students to take more accountability on what they are creating, and they take a lot more ownership, because they know that it's not just the teacher that's going to be watching this for the purpose of assessment or grading. This is going out to someone who's going to consume it, who is their peer. And when their peers are viewing something, there's a little bit of nervousness involved, but they also want to connect with their peers a little bit more. So they make it more, consumable for them. They will add music or things that are more related to what their peers will enjoy and appreciate, and it becomes a lot more fun for them. So yes, definitely, I love the idea of using Adobe Spark and Canva, and Chey and I have been using Snapseed for the photo editing. I'm sure that he's going to talk a little bit more about that. I've enjoyed using Screencastify. We've played with Flipgrid a little bit. We're getting a little bit more into that, but we also really like to use basic apps like the Google apps that are available for us. Jamboard is a really great one for creating simple things, like games is something that I'm going to be trying with my students. So, and create some games, and then you can share them easily with your classmates, and then play them, right? So that's also a type of creation as well. And among that, I don't want to take up too much time. There's so many other ways that we can be creating. Podcasting in the school is something that I'm working on right now with my administrator, and trying to set up a podcast for the students and to create their own. And, and now that I have a little bit of knowledge about that, I can really help them out in how to get started and walk them through the entire process. And so there's so many different avenues that we can go here, that there's really, the possibilities are endless. And having that connection piece with the students, it's key, and it's so necessary, and love to be able to have that in our classes.
All right, and this is why I should have asked Traci to go first, because now I have nothing left to say. Like, Traci, I need you to take this and run it right to 8:30, because Jim guy's got nothing left. She just emptied out the bank and every secret I got.
Good.
All right, fair. Traci, it's on you now. Take it up. Take it up.
Oh, you're on mute, Traci.
I said I was going to remember to unmute. My kid is down the hall playing video games, and I'm like, dude, you should see my phone. I've texted so many times. He's going to get it when this is over. But
he's content consuming right now.
Totally. All right. So I teach kindergarten. So Chey, when you came up with wanting to talk about this, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, because everybody thinks, it's kindergarten. Oh my gosh, y'all, kindergarten is rocking being creators of content. So let me just tell you a couple of snippets of, so first of all, individualized learning design? What are you passionate about? So literally, guys, I'm talking individual research and exploration, but here's the bombshell. Like, here's the mic drop. Here it is. I'm doing this with parents as co-collaborators in their children's learning. I am like, it's amazing. So I'm just going to read this one little piece from a parent, talking about some things that I kind of created. So the mom gave me some feedback on what the child is interested in. I'm virtual. And I took that and kind of designed this program, did it on Google Slides. So her research is on Google Slides. She wants to know about Africa. She wants to know, how do they get around? What do they eat? What does learning look like? So I created, a Google Slide document with books and videos, things that I have proofed and reviewed, ask the mom to review the content, see what she thought about it. And then we're looking at, what do those end results, those products look like? We talked about dioramas, we talked about video blogs, and that's going to be amazing. So right now together, this mom and I are designing a video blog platform that we're comfortable with this kindergarten student using to report and share her learning. So you talk about a creator of content and all the different modalities that we're going to use. So the child is learning from Google Slides. She's going to put her products into Seesaw. We've been creating actual books in Seesaw. So I can't tell you how excited I am about taking the lid off the box for kindergartners, allowing them to own their learning, drive their learning, and be ultimate creators of content. I think if we do that at every grade level, what would the level of engagement look like? And engaging and connecting the parents as collaborators in the process? Oh gosh, I mean, we just nailed it.
Oh, we got a whole bunch of great comments there, and I love the comment of kindergarten and tech, because we were recently talking to Daphne from Codebreaker, and Tracy, like you, she's a K-2 teacher, and she's got a real mission and passion for the idea that we don't ascend to technology so that when we get to our middle schoolers or high schoolers, they know how to use tech. It's about, no, we have tech right from the beginning. So there might be different types of use of tech, but it's not the mindset of I'm going to ascend to technology. So when you were talking about that, I was like poetry where I was snapping my fingers like, yes, yes, yes. We want to embed that tech early, and we want to embed all the same principles as we would with our older kids, consuming, interacting, and creating. So I thought that was fantastic. Pab, I saw you mention Adobe. Clement, who we've just recently met, he was commenting on Twitter because, I have the producer on one side and my phone on the other, trying to stay on top of social media as we go through this. And he mentioned Adobe, and he's absolutely correct. And we've also been blessed to do some one-on-one with Brian Carpenter recently on some Adobe. So there are so many great apps. When I thought of how am I going to answer, Pat, you took them all, so I quickly had to jot down new answers. But I'm able to do this every once in a while. So I had a few. One thing that I sort of did earlier on in my content creation is that I always needed to have the best piece. I always had a need to have the best app. If I was going to do green screen work, I had to have a green screen. I had to have the right lighting. And as I've learned as I've got older, I guess I just don't move as fast, or I don't advocate for myself as much as I used to. But I've learned to sort of just find bits and pieces around my space that can help me create the same great content quickly and efficiently without necessarily having to set up a green screen setup. I can take green chart paper. I can place it in the corner of my room. I can put it out in the hallway, and I can instantly use that as a really quick resource, a really quick green screen area. And then when you think about other things, our phones, our texts, they are improved enough that we can really be much more of a MacGyver of putting our tech together in that front, that I can take a green screen and I know my phone and my iPad is going to be able to adjust it. So one thing I've learned as I got a little older is that I get more creative in how I'm going to do it. We've been doing some great photography work, some great double exposure work. Oh, where's your studio? My studio, it's a piece of chart paper flipped over backwards. It's white. And I just do a little bit more exposure on the photo, and we play around. And then as I also think of the middle schoolers, with these apps, Pat, you talked about Over and Google Slides and Snapseed, I like to get the middle schoolers to learn to intersect them, that I'm not solely going into Snapseed to create, that I get really comfortable in my creation, that I can take something from Snapseed, I can drop it in the app over, get a slight adjustment to it, I can pull it out, I can drop it in another app. And so our students get very comfortable that although Google Slides might be a great platform to do everything, or Adobe might have everything, am I comfortable enough to take out my content, put it somewhere else, and move it around? And for me, that's really been what I've really enjoyed. I often put it into like a photography example. When we go into Instagram, it's nice to have a filter, but this is like editing for dummies. Why don't we learn how to edit? Why don't we learn how to know all the different things? Let's say if we want a certain editing feature and we can't get it in Instagram, can we pull it out? Can we drop it in a photo app and really adjust the saturation? Know what saturation is, know what the black to white point is in my photo. So as you guys were talking, I was sort of jotting down some of those notes, and that was sort of coming to me, was this idea of really meshing different apps together and not getting fixated solely on one, and then being really creative in our spaces, that you don't always have to have the best tools to get really great results. And then you guys topped on something else, and I think I can lead into one more question, because at this coffee shop, I get a second round for free. So I'm going to get that second cup of coffee and listen to you three discuss. We talk a little bit here. Now that these students have created something and we have all these digital portfolios, it's not like the students' wonderful poster they drew in October that we put on the wall and we ask them at the end of the year if they want to take it home, and then 7 kids drop it in the recycle bin. This content now it still exists, is there. So there's ownership, there's content that's still out there. What do you guys think about, archiving student stuff? They have these digital portfolios, they have some ownership over all this content. So let's throw this little quick question out there to wrap this up, sort of this ownership component, the fact that the stuff they're creating now has a really long shelf life. And we will throw it to, I'll go Traci to get this one started off on this sort of ad-lib question to wrap up our show tonight.
I think that archival process is important because it shows the student their growth and evolution. And then the student can also assess himself. And we're kind of in the back seat. We're just asking a few guiding questions. But if that student can actually reach back and then make connections, who knows if they want to go back to a video or a product and connect it with something new. So giving them the opportunities to house the content. What are we creating? We're not even just creating creators of content. We're creating those for lack of a better word, intelligent digital citizens, where they're responsible for their learning. They, in fact, they own their learning. If you haven't read, and this is not a plug, but Alan November is an amazing technological philosopher, lecturer, researcher, and gives some great content and information for teachers facilitating the learning for kids. So I know I just drifted a minute, but that storehouse, them being able to go back, them being able to see their growth, them being able to tell you what they can do differently, that's where it's at. That's what we want. We want the kids to own their learning. What do you think, Pat?
Like that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I love that book. I'm going to have to ask you to send me the info on that. I'd love to give that a read. When it comes to ownership, I'm going to take it back to the intentionality. When our students are creating for a purpose and not just creating because their teacher asked them to create something, I feel like they take that ownership and they want to archive their work. They want to keep it. They want to take pride in it. I'm thinking about a project that we do every November and December where my students create a calendar. And I tell them that the purpose of this calendar is to display your work. First of all, their poetry, and it's always a poetry calendar where they learn lots of different ways to write poetry. But it's a calendar that they have to gift to somebody. So it's something that they would give to their families, to a friend of theirs, or to a relative or somebody. And so they create really great work because they know that somebody else is going to be receiving this as a gift. Their artwork is always, their best work. They put so much effort into it. And then they want to, they ask me, hey, Miss Wander, can you get this bound for me? Because I really want it to look professional. So, they're always thinking about how can I make it really, really great, because they don't want to lose that piece of work, something that they put so much work into, so much effort into. And so that creation process, that taking ownership, I think it comes back to, what are you creating for? Who is your audience, and who are you doing this for? Is it just for the teacher to get it done? Or is it, for the purpose of putting out into the world, of gifting to somebody, or to archiving for yourself, so that you can, like you said, Traci, monitor your growth as you grow, as you get older, so you can look back and see how much you've improved in that process along the way. So that intentionality, I think, is pretty key here. Sam.
All right.
Sorry, I took your job, Chey. Not the first time.
No. Sam, you get us going with one more, and then I'll wrap us up for the evening.
Yeah, absolutely. So around this coffee table, I have learned so much. I want to check out that book too, Traci. And what I'm hearing is intellectual and intentional creators of content and sharers of content. I think whenever we publish out content, whether it's a digital portfolio, something in Seesaw, or something we create, it shows that progress and process over perfection and production, or the end product, so it's all about learning and growing and seeing how we have grown from September to December, or however long we have our progress going. But it just is an amazing thing to go back, like, yeah, I did some great stuff this semester, and here's some ways to show what I've created, and having that digitally is phenomenal.
Oh, this has been a great show tonight. We're just touching the surface of where we can go and where we can discover. And of course, you can reach all of us at our multiple handles that you see here if you want to talk a little bit more about content creation, because we know we're avid consumers, avid engagers with people's content, and then we produce a lot of our own content, and we'd love to interact with you on all those avenues. So Traci, you can send Sam and Pav the info to the book, and you can just send me the book.
I got you.
But this has been a wonderful discussion. I really love this. We are back again in 2 weeks to talk a little bit of the nitty-gritty on podcasting. And you have been watching Educators Without Borders on School Rubric, our office hour show. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye for now.
Thank you for watching School Rubric's Educators Without Borders Office Hours with Chey and Pav. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media accounts to access the latest stories, interviews, podcasts, and panels from educators around the globe. Or visit us online at schoolrubric.com.